At 84 years old, I did something so unusual for a woman my age that one of my neighbors actually called the police to check on me. I didn't commit a crime. I didn't lose my mind. I simply dragged 2 plastic folding chairs to the end of my driveway, set out a cheap thermos of coffee, and held up a cardboard sign that said, "I have 84 years of mistakes and miracles. Tell me yours." Before you assume I am just a lonely old woman begging for attention on the street, I want you to listen to a fascinating piece of science. For over 85 years, Harvard University has been running the longest study on human happiness in history. Do you know what they found? It wasn't your cholesterol levels, your retirement fund, or your genetics that predicted a long, healthy life. The #1 predictor of human survival and happiness is the quality of your relationships. Yet, in our fast-paced modern world, millions of people my age go days, sometimes weeks, without speaking a single word out loud to another human being. My name is Shirley. For 4 decades, I worked as a nurse in a busy maternity ward in Atlanta. I held the hands of terrified young mothers. I comforted families. I was constantly moving, constantly needed. But after I retired, and after my wonderful husband Thomas passed away, my world began to shrink. It happens so slowly that you barely notice it at first. You stop driving at night because the glare of the headlights hurts your eyes. Then you stop going to the large grocery store because the aisles feel too overwhelming and your knees ache. Eventually, your children move across the country to chase their own careers, and the only time your telephone rings, it is an automated machine trying to sell you insurance. One rainy Tuesday afternoon, I sat in my quiet living room and realized I was becoming a ghost. I looked at my hands that had delivered babies and cooked thousands of meals, and I felt a deep, terrifying chill of obsolescence. Society tells us that when we get frail, we should just quietly step aside, sit in a comfortable armchair, watch the evening news, and wait for the clock to run out so we aren't a burden to the younger generation. I decided right then that I completely refused to fade away. I might be physically fragile. My joints sound like rusted hinges when I stand up, and I walk with a cane. But my mind is sharp, and my heart has survived recessions, grief, and heartbreak. That is not a burden. That is a superpower. So I took those 2 chairs to the driveway. The first day it was humiliating. People drove past and stared. A few neighbors crossed the street to avoid making eye contact. In our society, a quiet old woman hiding in her house is considered normal. An old woman sitting outside asking for the truth makes people incredibly uncomfortable. But on the 3rd day, a young delivery driver stopped his truck. He looked completely exhausted, with dark circles under his eyes. He cautiously poured a cup of coffee, sat in the plastic chair, and suddenly he just broke down. He told me he was drowning in debt and his marriage was falling apart. I didn't offer him a loan. I didn't give him a 10-step plan. I just listened. I told him about the year Thomas and I almost lost our home in the 1970s, and how the darkest storms eventually run out of rain. When he finally stood up to leave, he looked 10 pounds lighter. Word got around our neighborhood. Now my driveway is a sanctuary. A teenage girl comes to sit with me when the pressure of school becomes too much. A young mother stops by just to have 5 minutes of adult conversation while her baby sleeps in the stroller. I am not a licensed therapist. I am just a witness. I am someone who has been through the fire and can promise them that they will not burn. Here is the profound truth about growing older that nobody wants to talk about. Your physical strength will eventually fade. That is simply the gravity of time. But your emotional resilience, your ability to spot a breaking heart because yours has been broken and healed a dozen times, that only grows stronger. The younger generations are entirely starved for the grounded perspective that only survives the test of time. They are drowning in screens, anxiety, and fast information, but they are desperately lacking wisdom. Do not wait for the world to remember you are still here. Put a chair out. Offer a listening ear. You have an entire lifetime of value to give, and someone out there is praying for exactly the kind of comfort only you can provide. If this message resonated with you, or if it made you feel a little less invisible today, please hit that subscribe button. Your story is far from over. It is just time to start sharing the beautiful chapters you have already written.